to start whenever you're ready to introduce yourself.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and I want to thank you guys for coming today. Good afternoon. I am John Nyembo, and we're here to talk about the 215 years of Haitian independence. A little bit of myself. I am a French teacher and a history teacher, Gone High School. And myself, I was born in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central Africa. And then I grew up in Canada, spent my youth in France, in Canada, and then also my 20s and 30s in the United States. Now, one thing about myself, growing up in Montreal, as well as growing up in France, is I got to live amongst Haitians. All right, are there any Haitians in the room? Any Haitians? It's like I said. Come on, yeah. So growing up, especially in Montreal, you have to speak Creole, essentially, to survive, because we live in an immigrant neighborhood part of town. One thing I learned about the Haitians is they're very proud of their history. Very, very proud of history, very proud of the island, very proud of where they come from. And they have a very unique, very distinct history. Anytime you meet a Haitian, the first thing they'll tell you is 1804, Dessalines, l'ouverture, and we'll talk about all that today, all right? So they're very proud of their history, very, very proud. And a few slides of a few people that we know. And at a very early age, like I was maybe 6 or 7, I was introduced to Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, all right? We'll talk more about these two individuals, but every Haitian that I know, these two are like their Jesus and their God, okay? And we'll talk about why, and why these two people should mean the same importance that they mean to the Haitians should mean to every African worldwide. And we'll talk about that today, okay? So I went out to college. I went to the University of Texas Arlington, also Dillon University in New Orleans, and I studied African history as well as the history of African diaspora. What's the history of the African diaspora is basically where Africans lived, which is, of course, the African continent, it's Europe, North, South, Central America, as well as parts of Asia. So basically, when you study African diaspora studies, you study world history because we were everywhere. And I concentrated a lot on Haiti, So the reason why we're here today, because on January 1st, 1804, Haiti made a history of being the first black nation to gain its independence. So that's January 1st, 1804. 215 years ago, a nation of African slaves, rebelled, fought against multiple nations, and gained their independence. So what should Haiti mean to us and other Africans? Okay? Haiti is the only successful slave revolt. All right, let me explain that again. It's the only successful slave revolt, meaning we consider the Americas, United States of America, Mexico, Jamaica, Barbados, Puerto Rico. I mean, all these islands, all these locations, they rebelled every day. They rebelled by not working hard, by not accepting Western culture, by many ways. But the only successful revolt that turned into a nation was in Haiti, all right? So as Africans, we should all look to Haiti as an example. And also when they're suffering, we're suffering. When they're up, we should be up, okay? So we'll talk about that. Excuse me. So again, we're here to celebrate with our fellow Haitians, brothers and sisters, all right? Just like they celebrate with us Juneteenth, or we celebrate Kwanzaa, we should celebrate the Haitian independence as a whole, as Africans everywhere around the world. So what does Haiti mean to us Africans worldwide? Anything, let's say anything? No, you can speak. So what should Haiti mean to us worldwide as Africans? Yes, ma'am.
Well, it should mean that they fought in Haiti. They're the only ones who were able to get themselves out of slavery.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the question I wanted to ask was, how many revolts were there?
Essentially, from 1509 to the Brazil ended slavery in 1888.
Right.
The first slaves came to the Caribbeans around 1509. From 1509 to 1888, there's rebellions every day. Every day, people rebelled. All right, there's different forms of rebellion. Sometimes passive resistance by just working slower, not meet up the quota. Sometimes it's just burning down the master house. Sometimes burn down the crops. Sometimes it's putting making the way you cook, you make sure that the master is sick. I mean, there's different type of rebellion. By not naming, if you guys have seen the movie Roots, by keeping the name Kunta Kinte, that's a form of rebellion, all right? So there's many forms of rebellion, but Haiti was the only successful violent rebellion. We all talk about the Nocturnal Rebellion. It was so successful. For about 2 weeks, they run around and killed a lot of slave owners. But at the end, all of them were suppressed. But in Haiti, they were able to rebel, kick out the French, and create their own nation. And that's why it makes it unique. So with that being said, Haiti is a sign of black freedom.
Right.
All right? Because us United States who are suffering, or Jamaicans, or Trinis, we should look at Haiti as a stand of a form of freedom, as well as black pride. All right? It's also unity and, should be unity and liberty, all right, because they fought for their liberty. So a lot of times we talk about independence, but the thing is, if you're not free, you can't be independent.
Right.
So before they gained their independence, they had to fight for their freedom. That's what we'll talk about more about today. So anyone in the room knows who did Haiti fight against to gain their independence?
The French.
French. Is that it?
Spanish.
Spanish. Anybody else? Britain. So technically they fought three world power, three
At one
empires
time?
at one time. And that's what makes it even so unique, and that's what we need to celebrate, the great accomplishment. So the first nation that,
Sorry, different time periods, all at the same time.
it was, well, so the rebellion started in 1791, and the independence was until 1804. So that during that time period, they fought those nations. Then after 1804, then they still fought some more nations. Because then they became independent, they kept fighting. So the saying, the struggle continues, the struggle continued. It wasn't now January 1st, 1804, you're free, now you can be a participant of the Western world. No, it wasn't like that. So they still struggled, they still had to fight. So that's why they fought those countries. And then later on, I had to fight the United States, which we'll talk about later. Okay? So, again, the nation that they fought against, or the first nation, was Spain. All right? When we talk about Spain, it's more than Spain, the country, but also the Spanish Empire. All right? So if you see how spread out the Spanish Empire was, they had troops everywhere. So, Haiti's right here, tiny island right here. They had to fight all of these troops coming from everywhere, and these resources that could attack them.
So why were they fighting Spain? Were they fighting for their freedom?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it, why Spain fought against Haiti. All right. Also, they fought against the British. All right. Great Britain was another empire that did not want to see Haiti successful. So when we talk about Great Britain, we'll talk more about the British Islands, but again, the British Empire. All right. So this is the empire that they had to fight against. All right. And then finally, they fought against the French. All right. Which was their colonial power. The people suppressed them for so many years. All right, so again, we've got the French. And then, who is the gentleman right here? Everybody know who he is? Napoleon. All right? Napoleon Bonaparte is considered in many circles as one of the greatest military generals of all time. All right? At West Point, they are taught French so they can read his manuscript and his tactics on how to defeat the enemy. All right, and Haiti defeated this great general. All right, so today, any military leader will tell you they studied Napoleon Bonaparte, and all our ancestors, our brothers and sisters from the Haitian island, had to fight against this man. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I like to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, when they fought him, Napoleon.
Yes, ma'am.
And won and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why today they treat the Haitian people so bad? Like, in other words, when they try to come here, they send them back.
Yes.
Is that why they do that, because of that war?
Most definitely, most definitely. It was from the point that, so if you think about the United States, all right, in 1804, all right, slavery in the United States did not end until 1865. Okay, so in 1804, slave owners could not see free slaves celebrating, right? So as soon as Haiti became a country, Thomas Jefferson was president of the United States, he did everything he could to make sure Haiti could not be successful, all right? Do we all learn in school the Louisiana Purchase, right?
Right.
Essentially, Louisiana Purchase was America bought from France Central America, basically Louisiana, parts of Texas, all the way up to Oregon, the whole area, bought it from France because France needed money to suppress the rebellion in Haiti, all right? So Jefferson helped out Napoleon as fellow Europeans to take down Africa, an African nation, all right? That's the reason why they could not, it was, you couldn't dream of a free African nation, African states, while you have Africans enslaved less than 60 miles away. Because Haiti's very close to Florida. Haiti's very close to Louisiana, okay? So that's why they had to attack and make sure that it could not be successful. Any other questions?
Was that the Louisiana Purchase?
That was Louisiana Purchase, 1804. All right, and if it's the same, you know, so the French were fighting the Haitians, and wars cost a lot of money. They needed money. They need to send troops from France or from Guadeloupe or from Senegal, send them to Haiti, and then they needed money. Then America basically helped them out, bailed them out. Yes, ma'am.
So it wasn't really initially about expanding America. It was really initially about kind of doing a trade-off with.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both, because if we rewind to the American Revolution, the French helped out the Americans, all right? If it wasn't for the French, America still would be in British. So kind of, okay, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, return the favor to Napoleon. That's why in New York today we have the Statue of Liberty. That was a gift exchange that the French and the Americans had. Any other questions?
Baby.
Yes. Yes.
Why did you always learn about the African American history?
What did I do what?
Why did you always know about the African American history?
Why? Because I love my history. I love my people. And that's why, just like you love your hair the way it is, that's why we're a very unique people. We're a wonderful people. And I think that we need to love and appreciate our history. Yes?
Yeah, I also like to add, you know, you said that, you know, the Haitian Revolution was an important time in African history, and us as people of African descent.
Yes.
It was also an important time in world history, because if the Haitians hadn't defeated Napoleon, Napoleon would have taken over Europe.
Yes.
Right? And because they sunk all of the resources into Haiti, Napoleon had to sell the Louisiana Purchase to raise money to continue his war in Europe. So not only is it an important point in African history, but also an important point or an important milestone in world history, because we would probably all be speaking French right now if it wasn't for the Haitians,
Who's that from?
you know, doing what they did.
Yes.
I have something I like to say.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm originally from New Orleans.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and there was a lot of things that they didn't teach us. See, I went to predominantly white schools.
Yes, ma'am.
And there was so much that they didn't teach us. I used to have to go to the library to read about black history on my own.
Yes,
Even
ma'am.
though I was in school, they weren't teaching me. And I used to always see the gentlemen that you just showed pictures of.
Yes, ma'am.
That was from Haiti.
Yes, ma'am.
I used to always see them in uniform.
Yes, ma'am.
Were they soldiers or were they?
We'll talk more about that, but yes, Louverture was actually a general for the French army.
Okay.
And then we'll talk more into detail as we go on.
Okay.
So in the media, when they talk about Haiti, what images do you see? What do you hear? What are the words that they always talk about when they refer to Haiti? Poor. Anything else?
They're all negative.
Negative, poor, right? Earthquake, corruption. What else? Famine, cholera, right? What else?
Ignorance.
Ignorance, all right? Poverty. These are things they talk about when they refer to Haiti. They say the same thing all the time, right? For the same token, we hear the same thing when we talk about Africa, all right? If you mention Somalia, Ethiopia, Congo, Nigeria, they will say the exact same thing, all right? If you ask any random person in the street, Haiti, what do you gonna think about? What else do they say? Voodoo, right? Dictatorship, oppression, what else? Immigrants, right? So that you hear all these negative things about Haiti, all right? And it's true that Haiti has a history of dictatorship, had a history of bad leadership, and a long history of it. In 215 years of existence, Haiti had 32 coups d'etat. All right, a coup d'etat is basically a forceful removal of the president by the people or by the army. All right, so in 215 years, they had 32 coups d'etat. So this makes me raise a few questions. Why did Haiti fail as a state? Anybody knows? Why did Haiti fail as a state?
It's because of what you said, that, you know, the European nations, they couldn't have a free, independent African state or African nation, right? And so that idea is what they fear most, and so they always have to, even today, they even have to try to interject themselves into Haitian politics.
And is that, yes?
Could it be that they did strip it of some of the resources?
Could be. But, and is that unique to Haiti, or is that unique to Africans? Is that a human thing? Why did Haiti and most African states fail? What is the common denominator between all those?
I think it's other nations stripping them or exploiting them of their resources.
And we know that before Haiti gained its independence from France, it was ranked as the world's richest and most productive colony. All right? Let me say that again. It was the world's richest and most productive colony. Okay? We're talking about, we live in the United States, we're talking about where cotton was king. We're talking about how America made a lot of money off cotton, right? Haiti made more money than the United States, right? So, where did Haiti go wrong when it became independent? How come when you're a colony, you make all this money, then when you're independent, you're broke, right? Did the world stop using sugar? Did the world stop buying Haitian sugar? I mean, we still use sugar. Haiti could still sell sugar to somebody, but why did Haiti all of a sudden, after in 1807, they became broke? And we'll talk more about that today, right? Are Africans not able to run a democracy? Do y'all think so? Yes, no, maybe so. Is Africans not able to run a democracy?
Africans created democracy.
So how come our nations cannot run a proper democracy? Are these problems unique to Africa, unique to Haiti, or what's the deal? Do y'all know? Any idea, any input?
Limiting the exporting. U.S. imperialism, European imperialism, you know, always interrupting certain processes and leadership.
CIA.
They don't want them to have a democracy.
So in order to answer all these questions, we really have to go into the history of a nation, all right? So what we're going to do today is I will look to the history of Haiti. We're going to start with Christopher Columbus, all the way up to the Haitian Revolution, the Haitian independence. We'll talk about the U.S. occupation of Haiti. A lot of people don't know that the United States occupied Haiti for close to 50 years, all right? We'll talk about Cuba and Guantanamo Bay. Same thing happened in Haiti. We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about post-U.S. occupation. How was the country left after the Americans left? And you'll notice that there's a common denominator with Haiti, with Jamaica, with Congo, with Nigeria, with Laos, with Vietnam. All these colonies have a common denominator. And that's the reason why our countries are not doing well. That's why us Africans around the world have to unite and find a solution to fix our problems. All right? Because when Haiti is suffering, Congo is suffering. When the United States is suffering, Trinidad is suffering. When Brazil is suffering, Jamaica is suffering. Wherever black people are suffering, we're all suffering because we're all in this together. Okay? All right, so, yes, sir.
Why do African people have this United States?
Well, we'll talk about that right now. So, we'll talk about it. So, Christopher Columbus landed. I don't know if people don't know that, but first of all, when did Christopher Columbus land in the Americas?
1492.
1492. Where did he land?
Haiti.
He actually headed to Haiti. All right, he landed in Haiti. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, if you see here left, Portugal and Spain, and in actually what he called when he landed here, he called it La Isla Española, right? For short, later, Hispaniola, which just means the Spanish island. Okay? So when he settled there, the left-hand side of the island is Haiti. And the right-hand side of the island is what we call today the Dominican Republic. All right? But at that time, it was one big island, which was ran and owned by Spain. Okay? Again, it is a map of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Okay? So at the time that Christopher Columbus landed in Haiti, you had Taino Indians who occupied the land. The Taino Indians were Arawak Amerindians who were natives of Florida and the Caribbeans. Okay? Now, when he landed in there, though, the biggest enemies of the Taínos were the Caribs, all right? Other islanders in the surrounding areas. The Caribs are known to be fearless warriors. Some European documents them as also being cannibals, okay? So what the Taíno Indians did to protect themselves, they made alliances with the Spaniards, all right? If you know anything about history, what happens when the natives make alliances with the Europeans?
You die.
You die, essentially. They'll come back and they'll cross the word and then they'll die. And also the word, today we'll talk about Haiti, all right, or which in French, Haïti, comes from the Taíno pronunciation of the island of Haiti. All right, that's where the word Haiti comes from, Haiti. So, shortly after the Taínos, who were really good people, they were very welcoming to the Spaniards. The Spaniards noticed that, and they were supposed to protect the Taínos from the Caribs, but the Spaniards came in and just killed everybody. All right, they killed the Taínos and they killed the Caribs. Okay, the thirst for gold, the thirst for exploitation, was so much that they worked the native tirelessly. Those who refused to work were killed, all right? And then also, what do the Europeans brought to Africa and also brought to the New World?
Diseases.
All right? So they killed them off with smallpox. And within the first 30 years of Spanish occupation on the island, 90% of the Taino population died, okay? 90%, all right? So they killed them off because they needed, they worked them to death, or they killed them with diseases, or they just killed them just because, okay? So then these Spaniards needed a new form of cheap labor, all right? And where did that labor come from? Africa, all right? In 1509, the first Africans landed in Haiti, all right? In 1509, they landed. They brought them from the west coast of Africa, and then brought them to Haiti for them to work, okay? Now, in the United States, most of the slaves worked on cotton fields or clearing the land or house slaves. In the Caribbean, what did these slaves usually do? Do you guys know? Sugar, all right? So by the 1600s, slavery was institutionalized. Essentially, you can actually trace back a lot of Haitians' problems today with slavery. Because from 1509 to 1791, they were forced to work to death. All right?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the slavery in Haiti just as bad as the American slavery?
Well, we'll talk about that. We will. And I'm not gonna use the word bad or worse because that's somebody else it's a different degree. So I'm not gonna say, well, these slaves had it made versus those slaves. It was just different, all right? These slaves had to work with these conditions. Those slaves had to work with different conditions, all right? So just being a slave was horrible. But in the United States, they had different problems they had to face. And in Haiti, they had different problems they had to face. And we'll talk about these right now, actually. So the Spaniards, when they came to Hispaniola, they didn't find all the gold and spices and silver that they wanted, all right? So what they did is they basically, the little gold that was on the island was on the eastern part of the island, which is on the Dominican Republic, okay? So the capital of the colonial Spain was in Santo Domingo. The oldest churches were in Santo Domingo, the oldest buildings, so everything was in Santo Domingo. So you can fast forward to 2019, if you look at Haiti and the Dominican Republic is more developed than Haiti because of those reasons, all right? Because the Spanish came, they didn't see what they wanted, what they liked in Haiti, they stayed in Santo Domingo. But then they exhausted the gold reserves so quick that they left and went to Peru, all right? So when they left Santo Domingo, Hispaniola, and Peru, the island was essentially abandoned, all right? Anybody seen the movie Pirates of the Caribbean? All right? Actually, that movie is historically has a lot of facts, all right? When the Spaniards left, the pirates moved in. all right? The French and the English pirates moved in, okay? So that tradition, the European tradition of looting and robbing and killing and corruption, that is from Europe. It's not an African thing, it's not a Haitian thing. These Europeans were doing that, okay? That's another example of world powers coming to Haiti, coming to Jamaica, coming to Africa, taking all the natural resources, abusing the land, taking everything they can out of it, and when they're done, what they do? They go back home, all right? That's what happened in Haiti with the Spaniards. So that part of the land was occupied again by the pirates. And when gold was discovered in Mexico and Peru, they left, and now the mainland was mostly Spanish. The Caribbean was left by itself. It wasn't until 1697 that there was a Treaty of Redwick that Spain essentially gave the island of the western part of the island of Haiti to France, and France renamed it Saint-Domingue. All right, so we went from La Isla Española to Saint-Domingue, which is on the Spanish side of Santo Domingo, French side of Saint-Domingue, the same word, two languages. All right, so rewinding back, we went from Haiti, right, which was owned and landed by the Tainos. After Haiti, you had Hispaniola, which was Spanish, right? And after Hispaniola, you had Saint-Domingue, all right? So you had the natives, the Spaniards, now you have the French. Now the French rule, it was a little bit the same, but what the French did is they really, 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 really exploited Haiti for its sugar. When the French came, they noticed that we're not gonna make money off gold, we're not gonna make money off silver, we're not gonna make money off spices, but we can make money off this sugar, all right? Haiti, which is right here, made more money. The sugar export was so much, 40% of European sugar was Haitian, all right? Haiti produced more sugar than the British West Indies combined, all right? So I here you see all these islands right here are composed of the British. Yeah, you see that? Okay, so this third of an island produced more sugar than all these islands over here. Do you guys can name any of these islands that I'm speaking of, the British West Indies? Jamaica's one of those. Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Nassau, the Bahamas, Aruba, St. Grenadine, St. Vincent, any other islands?
St. Lucia.
Dominica, Cuba, Cuba Spanish,
St. Kitts, St. Croix.
St. Kitts, St. Croix, Turks and Caicos, and the other ones. So all those islands that we named all produce sugar, right? But Haiti produced more sugar than all of them. That's just to show you how much sugar was produced from that location. The young lady asked, was it worse, was it worse to be a sugar slave than be a cotton slave, right?
Well, what I meant is like, okay, the rapists, the maiming.
Oh, that's a European thing. That is a European thing. Wherever Europeans go, they're gonna rape. Wherever they're gonna go, they can cut off your hands. Wherever they're gonna go, they're gonna kill. All right?
Okay.
That is gonna do. But the day-to-day work will vary depending on who your colonial is, right?
Right.
So, again, this colony made a lot of money for France, all right? However, France never invested in Haiti. They never invested in Haiti, not even build roads, not even build, they did nothing compared to on the Spanish side of the Dominican Republic, they invested a little bit, okay? So this resulted to an unequal trade balance, all right? Because all the sugar that Haiti produced were sent to France. France used it, right? France got it, manufactured it, put it in the boxes, sold it to the world. France made money, Haiti left with nothing, all right? And then so Haiti had no manufacturing, no nothing. And actually, this pure exploitation relationship never really changed. all right? Today, Haiti still pays reparation to France for their freedom. I don't know if that makes any sense. So Haiti, who fought for the independence, is paying reparation to France. Let's put that in American context. It's like the United States, in 200 years later, is paying Great Britain for their freedom. No, that didn't happen. When America became free, England accepted their freedom, and they left them. And when the British kind of didn't respect the treaties, we had the War 1812, right? So they respected their sovereignty, all right? That sovereignty was never respected in Haiti. And that's the same thing in Congo, Nigeria, and Kenya, and so on and so forth. So again, you notice that us African people are in the same predicaments. And we need to understand our history, and then we need to combine and relate, and combine and fight together.
Yeah, because there's still African countries today that are paying
Big
France
time,
and
big
European
time.
tariffs as well.
African countries use, French-speaking African countries use the francs, which is produced in France, and France control the economy. All right, but the French economy would survive without African resources. So that unequal balance hasn't changed. And it's not unique to Haiti, it's not unique to French-speaking Africa, it's English-speaking Africa, Spanish-speaking Africa. All Africans are going through the same thing. Yes, ma'am.
Sit down next to
What I don't understand is why they continue to pay France for so many years.
Because, and we'll talk about it later, is when you become a country, now you have to have trading partners, right? Haiti had no trading partners. No one would trade with Haiti, right? Thomas Jefferson placed an embargo on Haiti, so no country would buy Haitian goods. And because they purposely crippled the Haitian economy, because Haiti could not survive. Because if Haiti survived, if Haiti was a thriving nation, if you're a slave in Mississippi, you can get on a boat and flee to Dominican Republic, to Haiti. If you're a slave in Jamaica, if you don't like what's going on, you can leave and go to Haiti, right? And you think about 2019, if us people, African people, if we don't like America, and America treating us bad, if Haiti was a functioning nation, we should move to Haiti, all right? These are our brothers and sisters, okay? But they did that on purpose because they knew that we can't have a nation to flee to. And that's why they continue attacked Haiti and continue attack every African nation, okay?
Yeah, but the thing about it, I don't understand this too, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Haiti people are a lot more smaller than American people.
Well,
Those guys be speaking 3 and 4 different languages.
And that's because of just the environment. It's just placed in a different environment. If African Americans were placed in an environment that speak multiple languages, they will. Myself, I grew up in a Haitian neighborhood, so I had to learn to speak Creole. All right, I played basketball in high school. My basketball coach only spoke Creole in practice. If I want to play, I had to speak Creole, right? That's how it is. So you will meet many Africans who speak 3 or 4 languages because with ethnicities and so on, they have to speak the language. So it's not that per se they're smarter, it's that more opportunity to speak other languages. And it would be the same thing here in America if opportunity was given. And the things that African Americans are not given the same opportunities to go to school as other ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
So the sugar planting was backbreaking. All right, does anybody know how, ever seen a sugar mill? All right, so essentially is, first you have to cut down the sugar cane. All right, it's a tall tree about this tall, with a machete cut it down, okay? Then after that, you have to grind the sugar mill. All right, you have to, grind the cane. Then from the cane, you get like that juice, and then it's syrup, and then from that you make glasses and sugar and all that, okay? So this picture here is showing us a sugar mill in Europe, all right? And this is a sugar mill in Haiti, okay? It's not so accurate because the difference between the two is you can't really tell on here they use horses to get the mill to grind the cane. You know what they use in Haiti?
people.
People, all right? They use people to grind it, all right? So now, I don't know if anybody been to the Caribbean, but it's extremely humid, all right? It's about 90 degrees, and it's humidity about 90%, and you're sweating, you're working your butt off. And these guys are working for 12 to 15-hour days, every day, just working sugar mills.
Get a wipe.
Now, these Africans were so overworked that the death rate was extremely high, extremely high. So what happens when you, actually die? What do? You replace them. How do you replace them? You bring more slaves, right? Especially that with the warm currents, right? Central Africa and the Caribbean, It's a closer location. So during the summer month, it's about sometimes 3 weeks. All right. So when you ride the currents, these slaves will come in. All right. So you look at here. This is from the 1600 when the Spanish were mostly occupied the Americas. You didn't have as many slaves come up here. All right, about 400,000. Okay. Now when they found out that sugar was making a lot of money, and also the United States when cotton make a lot of money, or tobacco, rice, look how many slaves come up here. All right. And the difference, you mentioned the difference between slavery in the United States and slavery in the Caribbean. In the United States, a lot of times, because they didn't want the slave population to be too large, also you want the Africans to come in, you wanted docile slaves in the United States, they would put slaves together to reproduce more slaves, all right, more docile slaves. If you're second generation slave, you tend to rebel less. If you're third generation slave, less, and fourth, and so on. All right. But here in Haiti, because they needed so many slaves to work so much, they just shipped them every day. Brought new slaves every day. Okay. The difference is now these slaves here were Africans. They were born in Africa. They knew exactly where they lived. Okay. So when they came up here, we had a lot of slave rebellions.
How many on the new map?
You had, I don't have a quite number, but it was essentially every day. Every day, as soon as they step off the boat, they fought. All right? Because they knew where they came from. All right? If anybody was to try to kidnap my son, all right, he'll fight because he knows not his father. He knows who I am. All right? But if you take a newborn, he may fight a little bit, but then later on all he knows. All right? That's what would happen in the States. So the difference between the two in the United States is the United States did not want too many African slaves in the United States. All right? The only place where we had the only place in the United States where the African population more than the European population was South Carolina. And if you know anything about history, South Carolina had a lot of slave rebellions. All right? Because of that. So with that being said, you had a new large African population, okay, ready to fight, and you had fights all the time. Then you had a small white population in Haiti, the slave owners, okay? Then you had a third population. If you know anything about Europeans, on top of killing the natives and the slaves, what else they like to do with the slaves?
Right.
They love to reproduce with slaves, all right? They love to reproduce with slaves. So now in Haiti, you had Europeans, right, mostly French, sometimes Spanish. You had the Africans. You had this new class, which they called gens de couleur, which basically means colored people, all right? In the United States, when they refer to colored, they just mean all black people together, all right? But in the French system, you had European, white, you had colored, and you had black, okay? Colored people had more privileges than black people. Colored people could own slaves. Colored people could own jobs, could dress well. A lot of these colored folks, their fathers were slave owners and the mother were slaves. But because the father was slave owners, they had more privileges. Okay? Any questions?
That's weird because, like, in America, they would rape a lot of us. Like, in America, like, the masters would rape the slaves, but you wouldn't really see so many of this there. So why is that?
In America, and I think it's because when we talk about the New World, you have to separate the nations. The French and the English are a little different, all right? From my study of history and also my dealing with the two, the French are very stuck up, you are privileged and you are lucky that you speak French. You are lucky that you live in French. French is so great. The English are like, we're great, we love our culture, you can appreciate our culture, we don't have to be English, all right? If you encounter a lot of French-speaking Africans, they act more French than the French, all right? Because that's how you were programmed, all right? So with that being said, if you have a drop of French blood to the French, you're French. So to some extent, you're not as French as the French in Paris, but you're not like these African slaves over here, all right? Versus in America, if you have a drop of black blood, you one of them, all right? We don't care how fair-skinned you are, how dark you are, if you have the one drop rule, all right? The Spanish was something in between, because that's why, and then that's why if you look at the Hispanic culture, the hue of colors goes from all the different colors, all right? If you look at the French culture, same thing, the hue of colors go a lot. Versus in America, you had more segregation. It was like, all y'all the same. Any other questions?
Well,
Yes.
I was thinking about what you just said. So they had during the slavery in Louisiana,
Yes.
they had what was called the mulattoes, the
Creoles.
Maroons, and they
No,
still
not
practice that right now to the day. There was some
No,
jobs
not
that they did
today.
when I was gone.
Ah!
You see what I'm
These
saying?
are the same people. You remember, Louisiana Purchase, 1804, right? It used to be a French territory.
Right.
And then
No,
a lot
that-
of these Haitian slaves, during the
Not
Haitian
Jews.
Revolution, left Haiti and moved to New Orleans, moved to Lafayette, moved to Louisiana, because it's another French-speaking territory.
Right.
The thing is, a lot of them, though, when they came to Louisiana, once the Anglo-Americans took claim of Louisiana, they noticed it wasn't like Haiti, all right? So
Right.
although Creoles, mulattoes, quadroons have more rights in Louisiana than a Creole in Texas, they didn't have as many rights as they had anywhere in Haiti, all right? And that's why if you go to Louisiana, you see many African Americans with names like Lafayette or Broussard or whatever it may be, because most likely they are descendants of Haitian slaves who left during the Revolution and migrated to Louisiana. And that's why. And also the whole voodoo and thing in New Orleans, because of the connection between the two.
But they said she was from Haiti.
Because also New Orleans was French.
Right.
It was a French territory, just like Haiti, just like Antilles, just like Guadeloupe. It's the same history, the same people.
Okay.
And that's why if you are a darker individual, it may be harder for you to get jobs in Louisiana
Right.
because you are a thoroughbred African. Versus if you are fair skinned, you will have some white blood. Yes, ma'am.
It was like that, when I was in St. Croix.
Yes.
When you have jobs,
Yes, ma'am.
they would like, I saw one that said like, they leave the job for a nursing assistant.
Yes, ma'am.
It said Haitians don't apply.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and, when my pastor went over to Haiti after the last earthquake,
Yes, ma'am.
first thing he was asked was, did he see any over there while he was over there?
Mhm.
And he was like, you know, that was the conception of the Haitians. You know, so it's still in that, if they don't hire Haitians over there.
Yes, you're right. And then also in the Caribbeans today, it's one island, right? Hispaniola, right?
Right.
But they separate the people.
Right.
When they talk about Haiti, it's black.
Right,
Dominican Republic, it's mixed.
right.
So when you say I don't want Haitians, I don't want black people,
Right.
right?
Right.
But if you're Dominican, you're mixed, you're
Yeah.
okay. And then you have to remember St. Croix was a French island, Saint
Yeah.
Croix, right? So
Yeah.
it's a French island, so that
Yeah.
same ideology.
Or we can call it
continued.
the I.
There you go. So it's the same people. That's why personally, when you study the New World, you have to also study the colonizer.
Right.
Because the colonizer acted differently.
Right.
All right. That's why United States is different than Mexico, although both of them had European colonizers.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna also say that, the second thing that you were saying about the Creole having a few more privileges, and in the Caribbean today, the caste system is, prevalent. If you're light skinned, then you're gonna be able to, like people were saying, get more jobs as opposed to dark skin, right? And then also, the difference was the religion, right? The Catholicism was just a little drop more humane than the Protestant religion.
Okay.
And so that's played a big part into it as well. And the French, and the Spanish, as opposed to the English.
Yeah, and also the thing about the French and the Spanish is wherever they go, they brought Catholicism with them. Like that was a you're gonna be Catholic, okay? With the English, they had the Protestants, they had Catholics, and within the Protestant, there's so many different denominations. They didn't really force it too much, but we still had it here, all right? And then a lot of time what the Haitians did, they incorporated, which basically who is, they incorporated African religion and with Catholicism and put it all together. All right, and that's what a lot of times. Yes, ma'am.
Another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think the Haitians didn't come over here to America and try to help them get out of slavery?
Because, and I mentioned earlier, Thomas Jefferson would not let it happen. All right, and we'll talk about it. We'll definitely talk about it. So then we talk about, so you had a large black population, all right? So you had the colored people and blacks, and you have a small white population. The Europeans felt threatened. They felt threatened. So then they put in the Code Noir, which is black codes, all right? United States has similar codes, okay? These black codes were a set of laws to keep slaves in check, all right? So slaves couldn't wear white on during the week, or slaves, so many rules and laws that slaves had to oblige by, okay? But then what happened was, first of all, these masters used some very inhumane tortures, right? It's the same stuff that happened in the United States, they were doing to these Haitian slaves. But when they messed up was, then they applied the same black codes on the mixed population, all right? You have to remember, this mixed population, they never thought themselves Africans. My dad is European, my dad is French. I went to Paris, I studied, I have a master's in whatever, I got a PhD, I came back to Haiti where I come from, okay? So when these Europeans placed these black codes on the colored people, where some professions they couldn't have, so it couldn't be doctors or lawyers or whatever it may be, you had rebellions. You had rebellions in Haiti, because once you mess up with the status quo, people rebel, all right? If you think about the American Revolution, the main reason why Americans fought was because they had to pay taxes to England, messed up the status quo. They didn't have as much money, this and that. People always rebel. Okay? So in order to keep the conflicts in check, the French brought a lot of troops to Haiti. Basically, Haiti became occupied, a military occupation by the French. Because they didn't want it to occupy, they didn't want it to essentially, the black population be too comfortable and claimed island. So then you had a lot of racial tension, So now we're in this years 1770s, 1780s. You guys know what happened in the United States in 1776? The Declaration of the Plan. So America was going through revolution, right? What happened in France 1789?
French Revolution.
You had the French Revolution. So you had a wave of revolutions going around the world, right? Well, while the French were going through their revolution, and the Americans going through revolution, you also had the Haitian Revolution. Or it wasn't a full-out revolution yet, but you had a rebellion. You had people fighting, people complaining, people writing letters, people just doing everything that leads up to a full-out violent revolution. All right. Before that, they wrote letters to France. A lot of people don't know, during the Tennis Oath Act, which was when the French declared that the king was no longer the king of France and they chopped off the head, this and that, they had Haitian representatives in the room, all right? Because those Haitians, those mixed Haitians still felt French, all right? If you think about it, the reason why Louverture never lived to see an independent Haiti, Napoleon sent him a letter, say, hey, once you come to France, we'll talk about what's going on in Haiti. He thought that he was French. He went over there, was set up, and then he was killed. So a lot of these Haitians, even though they were fighting the French, still felt French. And I mentioned earlier today, a lot of Africans, French-speaking Africans, are more French than Africans, all right? It's something that we have. It's the way that the French really programmed us. We're like that, all right? The Anglos are just different. They're just a little different. So again, so we talked about, you had over 3,000 troops in Haiti controlling the French. Then in France, you had the revolution. And in the revolution, one thing about the French Revolution, it was a bloody revolution. It was a lot of bloodshed. Anybody know what that is? The guillotine, right? It was used to chop off the heads, okay? So again, the violence that we see in Africa, the violence that we see in Haiti is not unique to us. They taught us this. They taught us to use machetes. They taught us to drive-by shooting. Everything that we do, we're programmed by these Europeans. So again, if I go backward, the question I asked about, did Haiti fail as a state? Can Africans not run a proper democracy? It's not our fault. We're gonna follow our leaders, all right? Even during the sugar industry, France made a lot of money, right, off of it? But corruption was extremely high. Essentially, if I am a European, I come from a very poor area in northern France, all right? I never saw this much money. When I come, I make money, I'm gonna take money off top. I'm gonna be corrupt, all right? Not all the sugar went back to France. You guys, the word black market, right? That started in the Caribbean. Because there was so much thing going on in the black market. Not every resource went back to Europe. If you think that's a lie, a lot of guys kept their money in their pockets, all right? So you fast forward 2018, when you see the Haitian president, when he takes part of the budget, put in his pocket, it's not an African, it's not unique to Africans. It's something that we learned from Europeans. Okay?
So they was still.
Of course, big time. I mean, they stole land, they stole people, so of course they stole money, right? So again, earlier I spoke about the portrayal of Haiti and other African countries, and you mentioned corruption. See, it is not unique. So again, in French, when they were going through the French Revolution, the thing about the French Revolution, on top of being very, very bloody, there was a lot of theories, a lot of philosophies, a lot of writing. You guys ever heard of the Declaration of Man?
Yes.
All right. What did it talk about? What was it about?
It talks about man is having dignity, independence, and he has certain rights. So when we talk about Declaration of Independence, that is the same thing as the
That's the same thing. All men are created equal, right? You have to remember the difference between African American slaves and Haitian slaves. These are Haitian mixed people. These mixed people could read, all right? They could read that all men are created equal, all right? However, if you came to Georgia, if you gave the Declaration of Independence to any African American slave, they can't read this, all right? So these Africans knew their rights. These Africans living in Haiti. Yes, ma'am.
Two things. David Walker's Appeal. David Walker's Appeal.
Yes, ma'am.
When he wrote that, talking about how slavery, when he wrote about how slavery was evil and dangerous, it had to be sewn into sugar sacks and
Yes,
slaves
ma'am.
had to bring it. But also what's interesting is that Nat Turner,
Yes.
he basically was reading, he could read.
He could read.
He mirrored his ideas off of what was going on in the French Revolution.
Most definitely, and that's the reason why they never let Africans read. It doesn't matter if it was the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the newspaper, you could not read. Because if you could read, you could spread the news. You could educate your people, all right? They messed up and let Nat Turner read, right? He could read, he could translate, he could read a document, explain to the congregation what it meant, and then he spoke to his people. And then with that, you had rebellions, all right? And following the Nat Turner rebellion, they were really strict on not letting black folks read, okay? So, but in Haiti, it was a little different. So while
you saying that those colored people,
yes, ma'am.
they could read?
Yes, because those colored they were not slaves.
Okay.
They were not slaves. They actually, some of them owned slaves. Okay. They owned slaves. So now we're in 1791, all right? On August 14, 1791, we have what's called Waccamaw, all right? Anybody ever heard of that?
Yes.
Waccamaw essentially is, you had Bookman. He was a slave from Jamaica. He was sold to slave owners in Haiti. When he came to Haiti and he was educated, he could read, he was a priest, and then he was from I believe from Cameroon when he's back in Africa. And he could read, he was herdsmith, and he robbed the people. And he said, enough is enough, all right? So then in academia, you got two theories. Some people call this a voodoo ceremonies, others call it a military coup, all right? I would say it's a little bit of both. In the sense of, I don't think it was all magical, because by making this magical, by saying Africans cannot organize and do something without having to call on some type of spiritual god, right? It was a military coup. It was Africans saying enough is enough, all right? Similar to Brazil. And actually in Brazil, they had necklaces of Jean-Jacques Dessalines around their neck, all right? Who was Haitian, essentially the first president of Haiti, all right? It's all connected. It was all connected, all right? And this is Europe's biggest fear. This is Africans getting together and saying, enough is enough. Today, we're gonna die, y'all gonna die, this is over, all right? Essentially, that's what it was. That's what it was. You have to think about it. The first slave landed here in the let's look compare the United States and the Americas, right? The first American slaves landed here in 1619, right? The first slave landed in Haiti in 1509. So 100 years before we had slaves in the United States, you had slaves in Haiti. So for 100 years before we were going through some evil stuff, they've been going through it. So in 1791, also they saw that the French were going through a revolution. They saw the Haitians were going through a revolution. And also you have to remember that these colored people were French, so they fought in French armies. So they fought in America. They freed the Americans. They were in Paris. They were in a tennis court. So they came back home and they're like, I cannot be a doctor. I cannot be a teacher because my mother was black. And then you have the slaves who were like, I can't even walk down the street because I'm a slave, right? So that's when they got together and decided that enough is enough, all right? The thing about the Haitian Revolution is way more complex than, let's say, the American Revolution or even the Civil War, okay? Because the Haitian Revolution challenged all structures of liberty and equality. Because, you have to remember, the French, first they said, you mixed people are French. They're like, oh, you're not French. You're African slave. And then, okay, well, you're okay, all right? So again, like I said, because the French feared this so much that later on in the year 1791, all mixed people of Haiti were given full French citizenship, all right? Because like, no, y'all cannot get together. Because now we're seeing a problem. Now we're seeing that y'all get together. So in 1791, Haitian mixed were considered French, okay? But the thing is, in Europe, also the reason why they did that, also later on, they also abolished slavery, all right? Because you have to remember, the French Revolution was also a socialism revolution, all right? So we can't have a monarchy and slavery here in our colonies. We have slaves and we have all that stuff, right? So it was socialism. It dealt with socialism. They were anti-slavery, a lot of stuff. But then still in France, you had some folks that were pro-slavery because what did slavery bring a lot to France? A lot of money, a lot of money. So they wanna go through that. So what you had after the 1791 when the French were given. 1791 when the French were given, the Creoles were allowed to be French. In 1794, Robespierre, who was basically the French revolutionary government leader, he freed all slaves in Haiti and all of the French colonies. All right, 1794. If you're African, if you're in Haiti, if you're in Saint-Domingue, if you're in Guadeloupe, if you're Martinique, Saint Croix, you are free. Okay, that is 1794. Okay. So in that time period, though, you still had the Haitian Revolution. You still had Africans fighting for their freedom. Because yeah, you could say you're free. These slave owners, they're not just giving freedom right away. Also, but then also you have all the other slave owners like, whoa, you mean to tell me that my slave is equal to me? They left the island. So that's why, again, with the whole New Orleans, Louisiana, that's why we have a lot of French names in Louisiana today. A lot of them were French slave owners who went to Louisiana. Another place that they left to, we went to Cuba. Okay, so after Haiti stopped producing so much sugar, Cuba and Brazil became the two most, made the most money making selling sugar. Yes, ma'am.
There was a movie, it was called Season of All Saints.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever seen it? It was
No,
written
ma'am.
by Anne Rice from the Lord.
Yes, ma'am.
It talks about those women that were mixed.
Yes, ma'am.
And the lifestyle that they lived
Yes, ma'am.
in New Orleans.
I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. I think everybody should watch it.
I'd like to say, I was trying to think of the name of that movie. But Seasons of All Saints.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a movie about, what you were saying about the, the Creoles or how the light-colored Haitians felt, different or above. And so another thing I wanted to add too, it wasn't so much that they feared, black people getting together, but in that scene that you showed with Bookman, it was that he was a traditional African priest, as you mentioned,
Yes.
a voodoo priest, or voodoo, or whatever you want to call it, and they did traditional African rituals.
Yes.
That's what they were afraid of.
Yes.
The fact that we went back, we knew ourselves, we were using what our ancestors had, invented, and so they were scared. They were afraid of the voodoo, and that's why they gave the freedom. That they did, the freedoms that they did after that. And even today, they have us as African people afraid of our own culture and afraid to even say the word voodoo.
There you go.
Right.
Because a lot of times, and the thing, voodoo, or the proper term is voodoo, which is from the Fun people in Benin, right? That's their culture. That's how they worship their gods, their whatever the word for. But by calling it voodoo, you make it negative. You make it devil worshiping, and then boom, you make it so negative. For example, has anybody ever been to the Louis Armstrong Park in Louisiana? Okay, you know what the original term, the original name of that park was? Congo Square, all right? Congo Square in Louisiana was the only place in North America where Africans could freely play the drum. All right, let me repeat that again. Congo Square, it's not a big area.
No, it's not.
And only on Sundays afternoon.
Right.
On Sunday afternoon was the only place in all of North America where, I'm trying to get my picture, where Africans could do this.
And see, the sister who has a bookstore like Sister Akwete has here, she used to try to reenact that in New Orleans on Sundays, going to, before Katrina.
Yes.
They used to go to the park and beat those drums.
Yeah, and the thing about the drums is not only beating the drums, okay? Now, speaking as an African, we use the drums to communicate, okay? There's the way that you beat on the drums, like the Morse code, all right?
Yeah.
Essentially, Africans invented the Morse code. So you could contact the next village or the next house a certain way. Hey, they're coming, all right? The Europeans knew that because before they brought the slaves to America, they studied Africans in Africa, right? So they knew the language that we spoke and how we spoke. And the first thing Europeans did is translate the Bible to our languages. In order to translate to the language, you have to speak that language. So they learn our history, our culture, and everything. And actually, if you want to learn a lot about African history, learn to speak German. The German wrote a lot on Africa. The French wrote a lot on Africa. So if you speak French, English, Spanish, and German, you're going to learn a lot on Africa. Because
what I want to say about that picture right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not where Bookman Esperanza told him that you must take off the clothes of the oppressor? When in that right there.
Yeah, I didn't take off the clothes.
He told him, you must take off the clothes of the oppressor. And they, like you said, they sacrificed the black pig.
Yes.
Which was really, really powerful ritual. And so, like you said, Bookman Esperanza, that's somebody to really, really study when you want to talk about Bookman. When you really want to talk about somebody that was a military genius, not only affected the body, but his mind, the way that he could get the crowd riled up.
Yes. And I think that the removal of the clothes is also a symbol of removal of French names, French culture.
Right.
Because if you know anything about the French flag and the Haitian flag, they're very similar, right? The difference is the Haitians purposely removed the white from it to remove the European culture. That's the whole thing, all right? So then slavery no longer existed in Haiti for now, okay? But the French still needed to make money, all right? So in 1796, Toussaint Louverture, although like I said, it's a very complicated and complex revolution.
Right.
Although Haiti was rebelling against France, Haiti was still a subject of France. So Louverture still was employed by the French, right? So the French asked Louverture to strengthen the economy, and what he did is he made himself dictator, all right? So he forced the Haitians to go back to the sugar field to restore the agriculture system of production. The reason why he needed to make money, and then the only thing that they had was a cash crop. And you can't eat sugar like as food. You have to sell it to make money. So they had to sell it to others. So he was forced to be president. I mean, he put himself as president of Haiti, or dictator of Haiti, and the mulattoes did not like that. So then you have another individual, André Rigaud, which was basically the leader of the Creole, the mixed mulattoes. Then Haiti had a a civil war. So while they're going through the revolution, then they're going through also a civil war with mixed and blacks. All right, let's mention about complex. Because the mixed had no, you have to remember that the system we had before the slavery, a mixed Haitian could not see himself being ruled by an African Haitian.
Are there any books that you can read to learn?
There's many books. After I can give you a list of books.
Okay.
All right, so they couldn't see it happen. If you think about it in the United States, when Barack became president, a lot of white folks were like, I cannot let this brother be president. I cannot see it happen. All right, you have to remember, these mixed people talk, were thinking like Europeans, not like Africans. All right, so when Louverture became president, they didn't want nothing to do with that. So Toussaint Louverture took supreme power. He fought against Rigaud. He defeated Rigaud, and then he did his thing as president of Haiti for life. But then in 1800, Napoleon became emperor of France. You know the first thing he did? Reinstituted slavery. He brought back slavery because he was an emperor. He needed to make money. He wanted to bring France back to the level that it was. All right, so from 1794 to 1800, right? These Haitians felt freedom, right? So you know what Napoleon's first order was to do? Kill every Haitian who was free at one time. Okay? And that's not only Haitian, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Saint Croix, other islands. Okay? And just kill them. Any child that was 13 and above was killed, or they attempted to kill them. In one of the many small islands in the Caribbean, the smell of burning bodies was so strong they could smell it. That's how many people they killed. That's what Napoleon did once he became emperor of France. Okay? Oh, they don't. They don't talk about how people. Now, the issue with Toussaint Louverture was he was loyal to France. All right. So while they're going through all these things, he still was like, I believe in France. I believe in the rights of man. I believe in the paperwork that they wrote. So what he did was, he, following French rule, he took over the eastern part of Haiti, which is the Dominican Republic. All right. So one of you asked earlier, why did it fight the Spanish? Well, once he took over the Dominican Republic under the flag of France, Spain were like, you're not going to take our colony, so Spain fought Haiti and fought France. That's why earlier I want to mention the colonies that the Americans, that these Haitians fought against, the imperial power who they fought against. So they fought against the Haitian, they fought against the Dominican Republic. They took over the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Republic became basically a satellite colony of Haiti. So now in 2019, when you hear in the news when there are some friction between the Haitians and the Dominican, dates back to the early 1800s because they remember when Haiti forced them to be Haitian, when Haiti forced them to be slaves, because Louverture was working as an agent of France. If that makes any sense, right? So after fighting against the Spanish, whatever, Toussaint was actually caught in 1802 by the Spaniards, and he fled back to Haiti. And I don't know why. He received a letter from Napoleon, and I don't know why. He believed it, and he went back to France. That's when he was arrested and assassinated. Right. Yes, ma'am.
For those who don't know, they send him up to prison.
And it's just so you can escape.
They put him in a tiny cell, and basically froze to death, and they still have his death mask. If you ever get
You mean to tell me he believed in them people so much that he went over there and trusted them people?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you know what? In 2019, some of our people still believe in the system the same way blindly. Yes.
That was out of his upbringing. He was raised in a aristocratic type of life.
Daddy.
He didn't come out of it was a class system. He came out of a high class system, so that's all he knew was race around these folks, and he trusted the French. He trusted them. We don't know. That was a mistake he made, you know. So, but he trusted them.
What?
And I think also too,
back to the point you made earlier when the Haitians and French helped America in the Revolutionary War. He was a lieutenant in the army, the French army, when they fought in Savannah, Georgia,
Yes.
on the American side against the British. So he was pretty much educated and
Was he the one that ran a train and be on the side of George Washington? And it was him?
No, it was
no,
not.
that was another more.
It was on
yeah,
So,
I think also,
go ahead, sir.
sorry, I mean, I think also that because the French produced the doctrine of man, and he thought that they lived up to that
Right.
Yes.
ideal, and he thought that's what he was living up to, and he thought they also lived up to it, and so that's why he believed in when he went, you know, to go back, and then of course.
Didn't he fight them?
But he believed in the
fought like
doctrine
he
of
fought his
man,
brothers.
he believed that,
Right?
you know.
America had a civil war, right?
Right.
But in 2019, the North and South are back together, right? They
Right.
don't hate each other, all right?
Well,
And
they
like she
kinda
mentioned,
helped him. They kinda hate each other somewhat.
yeah, but it's
I'm
still,
talking about that all the time.
but as a Texan, you can still go to New York and be
Right.
free. Nothing's gonna happen to you, right?
But sometimes they think, you know,
Yeah, and that can happen. And then we mentioned earlier with the complexity of the Haitian system, right? Let's not think as Americans, black, white. Let's think of social classes, right? So if you're mixed, you didn't see the problems that the blacks faced. So Toussaint Louverture in his social class, he was mixed. And you mentioned earlier, he always wore like uniforms.
Right.
He would proudly wear the French uniform. You know what I'm saying? So he was French. So he did what was best for France. Just like when slavery ended, and they asked him take over the Dominican Republic, make them slaves for France. All right, he was an agent of France. So when the French told him come back and let's talk and negotiate, he came back because he was a representative of France.
And you trust him.
He trusted him wholeheartedly. Okay? So now that Louverture is out of the way, all right, Napoleon completely takes control over Haiti, but he did one thing he messed up was he started messing with the mixed people again, all right? And every time they messed with the mixed people and black people got together, all right?
Not
Yes.
to cut you off,
Yes, go ahead.
It's worth noting what Toussaint Louverture said after he realized he was captured. He said although he was just one part of the revolution, his seeds have already been planted in Haiti, and left it at that. And then he will probably go into the details of who came next, because of the ones who come behind him.
Oh, okay.
Those were of a different mindset than he was, and he knew that. And he'll talk about that.
Yeah. So after Louverture was assassinated, again, so Napoleon took over Haiti. All right, he took control over Haiti himself. He didn't have to answer to nobody, right, when he made his decision in Haiti. And he started messing with the colored people. He made them slaves. And they couldn't. He brought back the black codes that was. So then you had Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Henri Christophe. All right, these two individuals essentially defeated Napoleon. All right, so a lot of time in Haiti, those three names, especially Dessalines and Louverture, are the liberators of Haiti, but also the liberators of the Americas, because Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Brazil, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Bolivia, all follow the principle of Toussaint Louverture. All right, so when he said he left his seed, because so we're in 1804, right? The Americas wasn't free until the 1820s. So Mexico and so on, in the 1820s, you had the era of revolution. and it all followed Louverture's example. Again, in Brazil, when he had the Maia revolt, which was one of the largest revolutions in Brazil, they had to send because they believe in the principle. All right, so now Haiti is a free country. All right, Haiti is an independent country. No more slavery, no more dealing with the French. All right, so who was the new enemy? United States of America. All right, this is the album from Public Enemy. All right, and I love the quote. It takes a nation of a million to hold us back. All right, so at the end of January 1st, 1804, Haiti is a country now. It's independent. They got rid of all the French people, right? The French moved either to Cuba or to Louisiana or went back to France.
You mentioned it earlier. A lot of people still don't realize that Haiti was actually, back to your point earlier about Haiti helping the others out of slavery too. They were actually sending troops to all over South America to help them get rid of their colonial powers. Simon Bolivar went to Haiti and seek aid from the Haitian dignitaries in Haiti for military arms and training and weapons to go back and fight for their freedom in South America too.
And
that was all going on.
And we're fast forward to the 60s when African countries gained independence from the European colonial powers. Haitian teachers were sent to French-speaking African countries to teach them how to read and speak French properly.
And you also had Nanny, Nanny in Jamaica, and you also had Yanga.
Yes, Yanga in Mexico, all right?
Yeah.
So, and all those people followed the same, they followed Toussaint Louverture. They followed Jean-Jacques Dessalines. So unfortunately, Louverture did not get to see a free Haiti. His spirit lived on, and he got to see Haiti. He got to see Jamaica. He got to see Mexico. He got to see Cuba. And so Marcus Garvey was a descendant. All the Garveys, we talk about RBG and Kwanzaa and all those things. You can connect that to Toussaint Louverture in 1800. That's why I mentioned earlier, why do we need to celebrate Haitian Revolution? Why we need to understand revolution? All right. So now Haiti is a free country. Okay. We're talking about the problem it had to face, right? So number one, Haiti, 90% of the population couldn't read, right? The population was not educated, and then you didn't have many diplomats. You didn't have many aristocrats. And also on the American side, Haiti didn't even have a press to press their money. All right, and Thomas Jefferson placed an embargo on Haiti, crippling Haiti. We talked about how Haiti makes so much money off sugar. Well, they couldn't find a trading partner. Then all this sugar, but they couldn't sell it. And you can't eat sugar. You know, you can't get full of sugar. There's nothing I can do with the sugar here. And then we talk about Haiti being a third of an island. My third of the island is filled with sugarcane, so I can't grow corn. I can't grow wheat. I can't grow other things because I place an importance in growing sugar. Okay? So then Haiti had a lot of we talk about coup d'etat. They had just a series of presidents being assassinated. One president come in, he messes with some people that they don't like them. The opposition comes in, take him out. You had that back and forth. So in 1807 to 1818, you had Dessalines as president, right? He was assassinated. And after him, you had Alexandre Pétion, all right? He was assassinated. After him, you had Henri Christophe. He was assassinated. Again, I said it was 32 coups d'etat. It was back to back to back to back, all right? And me being a conspiracy theorist, I think they were sent from the outside to go kill and assassinate these people, okay? Yeah. Because I lived in Montreal when, who was the president in the late 90s? He was Aristide, all right? I was in Montreal when Jean-Bertrand Aristide was brought back to power, and every Haitian was happy, right? But a couple years later, they removed him. He came back in power again, they removed him. The last thing I checked, he's in South Africa in exile, all right? And that's the history of Haiti. If you watch the Haitian news right now, as we speak, there's some issues with corruption and oil money, and they want the president to step down. But you just had an election less than 2 years ago, all right? But again, we talked about earlier, that is not unique to Haiti, and these bad practices were taught by the Europeans.
And even those forefathers, even though they had such adversity, they had to face on a day-to-day, they still managed to accomplish a great deal. Some of them built, they built the citadel, they built roads, they built forts, they fortified the country against another French invasion. So they still managed to do as much as they could, but freedom was their number one priority. And food and other things were secondary, but they did what they could before they got taken out, pretty much.
And by being taken out, so again, 1804, Haiti is an independent country, right? It wasn't until 1825 that France recognized Haiti as a country. It wasn't until 1862 that the United Nations recognized Haiti as a country. So almost for 60 years, Haiti was not recognized as a country. So if you're not recognized as a country, you cannot trade with other countries. Because if I come to you, you say, who are you? Who do you come from? What country do you represent? What flag do you fly? All right? And then also, Haiti had to borrow money from America. And when you can't pay back your money from America, what does America do? Just take over. They take over. So in 1915, America invaded Haiti. From 1915 to 1957, for 50 years, America was a colony. Haiti was a colony of America. All right. We don't talk about that in the textbooks. We talk about sometimes Puerto Rico, sometimes Guam, but Haiti was also a colony of America. Also, they sent over 3,000 American troops, Marines, in Haiti. You know, but do you guys know where these troops came from in the United States? Yes, where?
South
From the southern states of America. They picked the biggest nigga-hating Americans they could send to Haiti. So for 50 years, the same condition that we in the United States suffered, the Haitian world presented. All right? And then we're going close to the end of my lecture. But the reason why I got to this point here is now in 2019, as you notice that Haitians, African Americans, continental Africans went through the same thing. But now I've noticed a rise of xenophobia in the United States within the black population. All right? I've noticed that you have some African Americans who don't like Africans. You have Africans who don't like African Americans. You have African Americans who don't like folks from the Caribbean, and so on and so forth. But if you realize that we are literally in the same predicament, we're going through the exact same struggle. We need to unite. Languages, religions shouldn't mean anything. You being a Buddhist, you being a Muslim, you being a Christian, doesn't matter. Because before you're a Muslim, before you're a Buddhist, you're a black first. And by black, I mean you're African. All right? We're all children of Africa. Yes, not all of us are on the continent at the moment. Not all of us were born on the continent. But if you have any form of, if your hair is kinky, all right? If you eat yams, all right? If you you are from Africa originally, all right? So we as Africans living here, we need to embrace, we need to understand our history, we need to appreciate our history, and then we need to lay a hand and help out other brothers and sisters. Because a lot of folks don't know, 30% of Mexicans are Africans, all right? And they go through the same problem we go through, all right? In Canada, I know a lot of folks think there's not many black folks in Canada. The Africans who live in Canada go through some similar problems that we're facing. All right. Harry returned to Canada. I mean, after the compromise in 1850, it was no longer the Missouri River. You had to go all the way to Canada. All right. Malcolm X's mother was Canadian. She was Afro-Canadian. She was from Montreal. So a lot of people don't know that. So we are going through the same thing. So Malcolm X was his mother was from the West Indies, who was raised in Canada. His father from Middle West America. But he was a Pan-Africanist. All right? Marcus Garvey from Jamaica came to New York, was a Pan-Africanist. All right? Because we're going through the same thing. We're going through similar trouble. Yes?
Kind of going back, I wanted to say say that.
How much?
30% as an
Is
example.
that you all?
Yes, it was.
And also, I wish we could, talk more about, Papa Dr. Valle.
Yes.
And Tom and all of that.
And then the thing is, when we get to there, we'll talk forever. Because then
Yeah.
you gotta get to all the way to the 80s and the 90s and the issues today. But he was backed by America, and a lot of these problems that we're facing today date back to slavery.
And the majority of the rum that was used during Prohibition,
Yes.
it came from Haiti. The Kennedys, they made their money.
Remember I
off of
said
Haiti.
earlier, black
Right.
markets.
Right, they
The
made
black
their money
market.
off of
So
Haiti.
corruption is not from us. We did not invent corruption. It's not we just Africans happen to be corrupt. We need power and corrupt. Everybody's corrupt. We're talking about the current regime right now in the United States. We had a lot of people with high power are right now facing charges for corruption in this country. This would be so perfect. So corruption is not an African issue.
Over the gold in Haiti.
Yes.
Stole all the gold and then,
Yes.
the
Yes.
troops, they caused, dysentery, cholera by doing what they were doing in the water system. So like you said, it's all American back.
And it's a European thing. If you understand this, it is important to say, do you know who your enemy is? All right? In the sense of enemy, I don't mean we have to go out and fight and kill every European, but understand that the condition that we're in, we're placed in that condition because of somebody. Right? When you study history, you study cause and effect. All right? You also study cause and effect. So what is the cause and what is the effect? Yes, ma'am.
A lot of people say that, you know, all that stuff you thinking about back in slavery, that doesn't apply. I have a nephew that has a master's degree.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, he caught up like in that world where he said because he's making that money, that he talk about this taxman dollars and he's sick of people. He said because he's making that money that you can think that way. You see, I keep telling him that the people laid up on us for 400 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the money you making ain't nothing compared to what they did up. You see
If you
what I'm
remember,
saying?
Louverture was the general. He
Right.
represented
Right.
France. He was basically attorney general for Haiti and France, right?
Right.
As high he was, like she mentioned, look how he died.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? You think of a lot of these African leaders who were president for 30, 40 years, made a lot of money, lived well. Look how they died. So money is for us, is eternal. It's not forever. Yes, ma'am.
This question about Malcolm.
Yes. From Grenada originally, but she was raised in Montreal. And that's why he spoke patois. He understood patois. But she was from a area in Montreal called the River. So it's one of the first African settlements in Canada. Yes, ma'am.
Listening to your discussion, it kind of links some things together from when we talked about how Haitian Revolution led to the independence or the decolonization of other Caribbean colonies. And then the same thing with Nkrumah, the independence of Ghana was linked to the independence of all the, you learn from those processes that it's not just the part of the whole that matters the most. And also when you talk about freedom mattered most too, was the top priority of the Haitian Revolution.
One,
And I think when Toussaint, when they started the
5,
revolution, they burned all the sugar plantations, right?
Yes.
To show the people we're gonna lose all of this if we do this, so now you have nothing. So now you fight for liberty, right? So freedom is the priority for us, liberation is the priority for us.
Yes.
So, and then we have to follow the examples of our culture, right? That is leading us to win.
Exactly.
And we will win.
Exactly. I think
So-
our ancestors left us with tools to be successful.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know how this is connected, it might not be connected, but from my understanding,
Yes.
under Castro, was sending troops into Africa.
Yes.
And helping to the
Yes.
non-aligned
Yes.
countries.
Yes.
So you have kind of a spirit of revolution coming from that area.
Yes, yes, and if the islands are close to each other, and yes, Cuba, it was Castro, Fidel, and Che Guevara. Che Guevara went to Africa, and Angola and Congo to free the people, and then same thing with Haitian doctors and teachers.
So, you know, I may not have this connection, right,
Yes. Revolution is contagious, right? If I'm free, you want to be free too, and you want to be free too. And it goes back to in 1804 when Thomas Jefferson saw what was going on in Haiti. He could not allow these Haitians to be free. All right, and the thing is, Jamaica almost had a successful revolution, but the Europeans weren't. So had Haiti, then Jamaica, then it would have been Cuba, then it would have been Cuba did it eventually 1898, but it took them 90 years to get there, right? Had Jamaica been free, then Cuba, then the rest of the world, then America would have been completely different. The economy in the United States would be completely different.
Yeah, it's Chichi
When
Day.
you was talking about a book,
What's the Chippy
you
Day?
said he was from Cameroon, right?
Yes.
They have a certain African tribe called the Coromanchis. It was against the law in New York for these Africans to be brought into New York because they were so you didn't import them because you didn't, and when you saw them, their teeth were it was against the law. It was like you don't import them because they were known for rebellion.
The Europeans knew exactly which Africans to bring to the Americas.
Yeah.
All right. So, like in the Carolinas, they grew a lot of rice, right? So they actually was sent out to Zambia because those are the rice people, right? In Georgia, Virginia, they need a strong folks to work all day. They got Angola, from Nigeria and all the way to Angola, all right?
In Baltimore, so big.
Yes. You hear when they talk about the term Negro, right? It's actually an ethnic group in Africa, the Mende tribe, all right? They would say, I want a Mende tribe, I know they're very strong. Or they may say, I want a Congo because they're very strong. But then eventually, they learn, they say, I can't have too many Congos together. They speak the same language. I can't have too many Fulanis together, they speak the same language. So then you have, in the Americas, they would put multiple slaves together and make a whole new community. And also in the United States, they didn't bring in as many Africans straight from Africa. They brought from the Caribbean. They were already broken and more docile. And that's why in the United States you had a less relatively violent rebellions than, let's say, in Jamaica and Haiti or Barbados, where it was every day, because those people were military leaders or soldiers back home, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, they're in Barbados, they're gonna fight, right? Versus in the Americas, your grandmother was a slave, your mother was a slave. All you know is slavery. You don't even know what Africa is.
It's just like Farewell to Uncle Tom.
Yes.
They show the breaking process of that. They show the breaking process.
There's a great book that I love. It's called Africans in America. All right, and it talks about it, the generation, how when you become American versus when you were African. All right, because the first Africans here were Africans. Second generation, and if you watch the movie Roots or the series Roots, you can really see it. Right. How, as it went on, he became less and less African. I don't like to say less African, but more American. You're always African. 40 years later, you're still African. So you don't. I'm not more African than you because I was born in Congo. But is me being in the Congo, I'm closer to the continental culture.
And it's interesting to go to different places, like I said, St. Croix, to see the African retention so strong there.
Yes.
I mean, it's like really, really amazing to see how to go. Like I know they say like Louisiana, place like, but to actually go to places where they when they talk about the three queens.
Yes.
Queen Agnes and all them, they burnt down 98% of St. Croix, the sugar plantations, and to actually go there and see how they hold them up and how they, when they have the fire burn, how they actually do that, to just be there and to see that the people are poor, but the African retention is so strong. I mean, it's a powerful thing to see.
And I'm gonna finish with saying that even here in the United States, all right, if you live here and you speak to each other, when they say, I'm a high school teacher, right? And a lot of times teachers will correct other kids the way they speak. And I say, no, he's not speaking bad. He's speaking Afro-English. all right? You still retain your African culture, all right? African Americans don't speak the same way as European Americans because you retain your culture. If you go to a Baptist church and you go to a Catholic church, it's different because you retain your culture. So you're not less African than the other Africans. And with that being said, we all are Haitians. We all are Africans. We all are Afro-Brazilians, all right? We have to combine, we have to unite. We have to unite. My favorite song and favorite quote by Bob Marley is Africa Unite, all right? It doesn't mean only in Africa. It doesn't mean only in Gabon. It means here in Dallas, Texas, and everywhere combined, all right? So I want to thank y'all so much I'm still here to talk and ask questions, but those of you who want to leave, you're free to leave again. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This is a dream come true.
I wanted to say that, you know, that here in the store, he has a bunch of resources that, you know, give information about exactly what you're talking about, right? And so, definitely, you know, to help keep us being able to come back here, try to go back.